All right, Nathan. Well, I got another dynamic question for you.
What's
The
that?
burning question I have to ask you every week for every episode of this show. And in this week's instance is, should Toy Story 5 have happened? Welcome to Should This Have Happened? In this case, should Toy Story 5 have happened? Should it have happened? This is our deep dive movie conversation podcast weekly gathering where we look into sequel culture, nostalgia, and that continuation culture that we just can't let go. We just need more of this stuff, and Hollywood every week seemingly serves it up to us. And in this week's instance, we're talking Toy Story. Not Toy Story 1, although we will be referencing it. We're not talking Toy Story 2, or Toy Story 3, or Toy Story 4, but Toy Story 5, if you can believe it!
Well, you know they're going to come out with a Toy Story 6, and they're going to go to space.
They went to space in number 2.
Did they? They
You
didn't.
don't
I didn't see
remember
number
that?
2.
Really?
I didn't see number 2, 3, or 4.
You're missing out.
Yeah, I've seen 1 and
You're
5.
really
That was
missing
it.
You are a host. You are a
I
host
am.
of this show. You are Nathan the Tater Slayer. I am Rob McCallum. Let's get into some background. All right.
All right.
You have synopsis of.
I have
synopsis for
synopsis.
Toy Story 1. You have synopses.
The
Toy Story 1,
synopses.
Toy Story 5. Start with the first OG Toy Story that somehow spawned 5 films at this point. I don't think any Disney franchise has spawned 5 films theatrically.
All right. Here's the synopsis for Toy Story. A cowboy doll is profoundly jealous when a new spaceman action figure supplants him as the top toy in a boy's bedroom. When circumstances separate them from their owner, the duo have to put aside their differences to return home.
Okay, it's actually pretty decent. And Toy Story 5?
Toy Story 5. Woody, Buzz, Jessie, and the rest of the gang's job are challenged when they are introduced to electronics, a new threat to playtime.
Yeah, not so good of a synopsis.
No,
box office
it
information.
isn't. It's a little cluttered there. Hard to read.
Toy Story 1 on Thanksgiving Day weekend brought in 29 million. I think across the 5 days it was closer to 40 million, but 29 million on opening weekend. We've only got opening weekend for Toy Story 5 to go on, and it's brought in $312 million worldwide. That includes several re-releases, not several re-releases. Can I just say, I haven't had enough coffee to deal with the fact that there are 5 films that are swirling in my head that I'm trying to compare and equally manage and discuss. Toy Story 1, 237 million, actually up to 401 million thanks to releases. Toy Story 5, on opening weekend alone, brought in 312 million. Adjusted for inflation, that 401 or that 237 is like 500 something.
Yeah.
So,
and I think
this is a big release for them. Toy Story 5 is a big release. Second biggest.
Yeah, this is one of 2026's largest releases so far. It was brought in.
It's the biggest of the year.
Yeah.
Bigger than Super Mario Brothers Galaxy by like 30 million. But that's the power of Disney. And that's the power of a 5x multiplier of an institution like Toy Story. A lot of people question this. A lot of people question Toy Story 4. And I got to tell you, a lot of people question Toy Story 3 coming out 10 years after Toy Story 2. But I think therein lies the magic of Toy Story 3, that it got the beginning of the next generation. And so it hit that sweet spot. And Toy Story 3 is phenomenally good as a standalone film and as the closing chapter to the OG Toy Story trilogy.
Yeah, well, Andy grows up in Toy Story 3, right? That's what the big
he goes off to college.
Yeah.
He goes off to college and the toys get donated to a daycare center. And Woody and Buzz get donated. They all get donated mistakenly. They got put in the wrong bag in the wrong box, and they get sent to Sunnyside, the daycare, which is another, part of a toy's life. Every film looks at a different stage of a toy's life. The first one is, what happens when a new toy enters the play pattern, and how do you compete with old versus new? A similar theme that we see in Toy Story 5. Toy Story 2 is about when toys become collectibles, and as adults, we gear up for them and get excited and play with them a little bit differently and restore them. Toy Story 3 is about what happens when it gets passed on and it's a donation and it's a different vibe, and you might find a new owner for the same toy. Toy Story 4 is about how you can make anything a toy and play with it, and that's what makes it important. Toy Story 5, it's about, again, competing with the new thing in the room and trying to determine if it's good.
And I think what I liked about Toy Story 5 was that it wasn't so much about the toys themselves. It was about trying to save Bonnie from growing up too fast and kind of saving her childhood and giving her a childhood, I kind of like the aspect of where Toy Story 5 went. I was kind of dreading it when I went to see it. One, I'm not a big Toy Story fan. I'm just going to be honest here, So, but instead of making it about, what Toy Story 1 was about, it was mostly about trying to save, Bonnie's childhood instead of, playtime or, save the other toys or what. I mean, part of it was save the other toys, but, it was mostly about Jessie trying to save Bonnie's childhood. And I thought that was a good aspect. I thought it was a good premise for the show. So.
Well, we'll get to how effective that premise for the film is in a second. Let's break down the original. Why did the original Toy Story work? Why does it resonate? Why did it resonate then? Why has it resonated over time? And what works so well about the ending of the first Toy Story to make it just a standalone film?
For me, I think a lot of kids could connect with, the premise of that movie.
What if my toys had a whole life when I wasn't looking?
Well, no. Like,
that's fun.
Where Woody starts getting jealous that there's a new toy, Spaceman, or Buzz Lightyear,
Space Ranger.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Space Ranger.
Thank you.
Woody starts getting jealous of this, and and I think kids can really connect with that. When you have a group of kids that, and you kind of feel like you're being pushed off to the side, there's a lot of jealousy there. And I think that, it was very relatable for kids and even adults. So.
Yeah, I think the idea of your toys come to life when you're not around and have adventures all on their own and are there to help and support. And the thing that they love most is playtime with you is a great idea. And then the whole idea of being jealous of the new thing in the area, the new thing in life became super relatable. And not to judge a book by its cover, right? That becomes essentially the theme that they explore. The ending is perfect, right? Because it goes through highs and lows of, complete rejection and then understanding through a forced lens where you have to understand each side of that coin of Buzz and Woody. And the gang gets to see kind of the true reflections of everybody that they're dealing with. And I think that's what kids do too. They get to see multiple sides of people in either a classroom environment or when they're at home, and how that's a little bit different, or at mom's house versus dad's house, how things are different. And again, I also love how people play with toys differently. A lot of flack was heaped on Sid, the next door neighbor, because he tore his toys apart. But for so many of us now, adult toy collectors, we love putting action figures together and customizing, right? So he may have actually saved those toys' life by taking toys that were essentially broken and giving them new life. Of course, they look creepy and of course they're strange, but that's, again, the premise of the film, right? Don't judge a book by its cover. They all became super helpful.
What's funny about that is when Cindy and I were setting up my Eternia set about a year ago when it first came out, one of the toys that I put out was one of the snake men, and his head had come off. So I left his head off, and he's laying down as if He-Man like chopped his head off. So there, as an adult,
You were
I'm becoming Sid. I just thought that was funny.
You got caught playing. It's awesome.
I got caught playing.
And the ending works because, right, you have this dramatic arc where these opposites are completely against one another at the beginning, and at the end, it takes both of them to come together and save the day. It's the threat of that dream being taken away, in their case, never having playtime again with Andy, to working together and make sure everybody has playtime. So that's why it worked.
And they become best friends at the end. They
become great friends because of their differences.
Right.
Which is awesome. Let's break down the sequel. What does this continuation add? I'm going to do my very best to ignore Toy Story 2, 3, and 4, especially since you haven't seen them. But it's really hard. Really hard. But what does this continuation add? It's almost really interesting to look at this as if this was number 2. Number 2 is when Jessie gets introduced, by the way. Like it's and Bullseye, because Woody gets bought up by a collector at a garage sale, and he gets put in the whole Woody's Roundup gang, and everybody's in packages. And at night they break out of their packages, except for the prospector, who's
I got to the part
down
in Toy Story 2 where they were sewing him back together, and I couldn't do it anymore.
I love the scene at Al's Toy Barn in Toy Story 2. They're basically in Toys R Us, and all the Barbies are around, and all the different Buzz Lightyears are around, and Zurg gets out of the package and starts chasing Buzz. It's amazing.
So what did it add? I think it added obviously the technology part of things, like real world scenario.
Is that any different than Buzz Lightyear being added, though? Let me just
I think it's a little bit different. Where Toy Story is about creativity and what you can do with your toys and the playtime with that. Lily, the iPad, there really isn't a lot of creativity when it comes to that. It's just viewing the screen, and everybody is mesmerized by this screen. But I also think it brings in a lot of cyberbullying. I've got a lot of issues with Toy Story 5, and we'll get into that. But it brings in the cyberbullying. It brings in, the loss of childhood and the insecurity of Bonnie of trying to make new friends, and the iPad really taking away from that, and
it sucks the eternal essence out of children. Bonnie comes back from the sleepover and she's like a zombie. And for those of you out there that have kids, that those devices just suck the life out of your kids after a while. They're grumpy after being exposed to it for too long. They're not acting like themselves. They've got to snap out of it. It's a pretty good depiction of what kids go through.
Yeah, it was a babysitter for the kids, and I have a lot of questions about where the parents were. They kept saying, "Hey, you only got an hour," and then like she's on this thing for like 24 hours a day. Like,
for as soon as she wakes up, gotta have it.
Gotta have it. It was very addicting for her. Instead of going out and creating something of your own and having the playtime and building this fantasy, the fantasy was just fed to her through the screen. There was no creativity. There was no playtime. There was, it was just, her staring at a screen and, trying to make friends through the screen when her friends were right across the street.
Well, let's also not forget the balls that this film has to crap on screen technology while being owned by several parent companies that are doing nothing but creating screen ecosystems.
Yes.
The fact that they got away with introducing this theme and not having to cave 100% by the end of it is pretty interesting. Right.
Well, I don't think it was also very in your face of what they were trying to portray, but since
I don't know, there are a ton. I think there's a ton of shots where you just pan across the entire neighborhood and see into different windows, and there are no lights on it. Kids are just zombies, being consumed by the iPad, which is no different than portrayals of television at a certain time in our lives either. But this
Right.
is like, if you don't do this, you don't have social status either. It's like Black Mirror almost. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
and it reminded me of when, like, video games first started coming out, like the Nintendo. I mean, like, we went from playing with our toys straight to the Nintendo, and, like, that's all we wanted to do, But I think this is different in a way, and I don't know how to explain it. Like, I feel like we grew up okay having Nintendo, but even as adults,
I
all we
still
do is
played with toys though. I never
did
had a
you?
problem. I never really had a period where I put the toys down. My brother's 5 years younger than me. My cousins are 8 and 9 years younger than me. And so toys were always around my house, even when I was in high school and, getting into rock and roll and different musics and concerts and stuff like that. The toys were always there and out so that somebody could play with them. And basically, before the end of high school, the toys were back in my room on display, and the McFarlane Movie Maniac stuff was out, for the adult collector. And I
Right.
started collecting stuff. I remember my grandparents raised me, and my grandma giving me grief because I took the top drawer of my clothes dresser, emptied it, and laid all my He-Man action figures in there, trying to collect them all. At that point, not knowing how many figures were released, but every weekend going down to a different store with the cash I had made to try to get one or two more figures to add up into the shelf. So toys were always part of it. But I'm sure I'm very much like Bonnie, that outlier kid that didn't just put them down.
Right. Yeah.
I think the Toy Story 5 really treads on very familiar territory though of Toy Story 1, where it is the fear of the new, and that's what is driving the essential conflict. Except for in Toy Story 5, Lily doesn't actually win over anybody, whereas Buzz does. And that's
Right.
what makes it hard for Woody, right? Because he feels like he's going crazy, that nobody believes this thing isn't what he says he is. He says he can fly and he doesn't really fly. It's there's so much more exploration of that dynamic in Toy Story 1 that doesn't happen in Toy Story 5. It's like tech is painted as bad from the get-go.
Yeah.
And it isn't until the end that they start saying, "Oh, look how good this actually can be." It's like, we can communicate. There is a place for this. She is one of us. Get over it, kind of thing. And it's like, yikes! Old man Woody is kind of really giving a spoonful to everybody. Like, you better accept it. It's here forever. Is he talking to parents? Is he talking to kids? Is he talking to the characters on the screen? I don't know. What changed from Toy Story 1 to Toy Story 5 that you noticed?
Oh, you know, um, it wasn't so much about playtime anymore. It really wasn't. It was, where it was, you know, I don't know how to say this, like, because I'm not a huge Toy Story fan, so having to analyze this is a little different for me, than say Masters of the Universe, right? So, where it was about like the fear of being replaced by as the top toy, this is more being all toys being replaced by technology, right? And what's going to happen, and we see that in real life now. We don't see the toys flying off the shelves unless it's collectors collecting them. I don't see a lot of kids playing nowadays. I see all kids on their tablets. So I think there's this change where instead of kids getting out and playing with the toys, that it's like you said, they're all zombies now. They're all on their screens, and and this is where I have the biggest problem. It was like, where are the parents in this? There was kids. Bonnie was being cyberbullied, right? And the parents were like, "Oh, we just muted your chat." And it was like, okay, these things have parental locks and you just muted it. Like, she can unmute it and get back on with her friends. Like,
It would have been
I
nice to
didn't
see the
understand
parents
a
like
lot of it.
call the other parents and say,
Yeah,
"Hey,
like,
what the heck's
they're
going
across
on?
the
What's wrong
street.
with you?"
Go over there and talk to them. I mean,
Well,
there was
no, the kids across the street were the Jordan twins, not the Chloe, Sissy, and
Oh, that wasn't
whoever.
okay. All right.
No, that wasn't them.
Well,
Remember they
still,
had
they
to
have a
drive a
car. Get in
little
the car
ways.
and go visit. Go talk to
Yeah,
them. Call them
parents could
up.
have done something about it instead of just muted the thing. I agree.
Yeah. I felt like there was.
I felt like the story wasn't about the characters and was more about a shift in overall playtime.
Yeah.
Toy Story 1, 2, and 3 was about the toys doing whatever they could to make sure they're with Andy and preserve his playtime experience.
Right.
And what is supposed to happen at the beginning of Toy Story 3 is that Buzz and Woody are supposed to go to college with him while everybody else goes in the attic for kind of retirement mode. And then, of course, that plan goes awry. Everybody gets donated, and it's about how do we get back to Andy? Just like number 2 is how do we get Woody back to Andy when he's been taken? No, number 4, Bonnie has created Forky. Forky just thinks he's trash because that's where he was, he's created out of garbage. Right. So he just wants to be trash. He doesn't see any value in himself whatsoever because he's different and who he is. And Woody is saying, no, you were the most important toy to Bonnie ever. You have to be there for her playtime, because Woody isn't the star of the show anymore. Nobody really is except for Forky. Forky is the new toy, and Woody's trying to embrace the new toy and make sure that Bonnie gets that new toy. And this one, it's not about making sure Bonnie's playtime is possible. It's like it's just gone. It's really strange. I don't think it was fleshed out from a story point of view and from character dynamics, because I don't think anybody actually learned anything.
Right.
I don't think Jessie is any different at the beginning than she is at the end. She knows more information, but she doesn't have a different attitude. I don't think Woody has a different attitude towards life. Maybe Lily does and understands the value of old man toys.
But you don't really see that.
No, and I mean, I don't even think Bonnie really understands, because she was doing what she thought was cool, but ultimately goes back to the way she was because of Blaze and this new girl in her life. So nobody really learns anything except for that technology can cause a lot of problems, and it's irresponsible. So I think those are the biggest problems I have with the film, is that there is no satisfying arc. And it's all just one big, we got to get here, then we got to get there, then we got to go here, then we got to go there. But it's not, you never really feel like there's any point to going anywhere, because you're fighting something that has no face, really. It's because the world has changed and there's nothing you can do about it.
No, and there's no embracing the new technology. I mean, it's kind of like, it very much reminded me of when we were in Ireland and we were talking to John Romero, and he said, if you do not embrace AI, you're going to be behind the curve, right? Yeah. And I know that sounds a little weird, but it's kind of the same as this. I mean, this technology is coming no matter what, right? And nobody can stop it, So I felt like the movie never really got to a point where it was like, okay, well, what do you do with the technology? What do you do with the older toys? It was just like everything just went, like you said, right back to normal. Nobody learned anything.
Nobody learned anything. That's the
nobody
biggest
learned
problem.
anything.
Like Woody learns something, Buzz learns something, the rest of the toys learn something. Even Andy learns something in Toy Story 1, right? Like, there's still value in old toys. There's value in new people in the group. The group can expand. You don't have to be gatekeepers. They even learn that Sid and the horrible things he does to toys isn't actually the way it is. It's all about don't judge a book by its cover, and it all pays off perfect when you decide to open that book and embrace what's inside. This one, nothing changes. So I don't think it understands the original at all, despite having the same characters trotting around their world.
Right.
Let's get to my favorite part, the standalone test. Does the sequel work without the original? Yes, no, sorta. And how much does the sequel benefit from the original entry?
I think for the standalone test, this new movie, Toy Story 5, can stand alone on its own.
You think it can?
I think it can. I don't think you need to know the
Can.
backstory of Woody. It can.
Oh, okay.
It can.
It can.
I don't think you
Interesting.
need to know the backstory of Woody. I think it has its own kind of you know, premise, its own story that you really don't need to understand what's going on from the original Toy Story. However, does it benefit from it? Yeah, I think it does benefit from it. I think if you've seen Toy Story 1, 2, 3, and 4, you're probably going to have a better understanding of what's going on, but you don't need to understand what's going on in order for this to be relevant or, you know, to stand alone.
I don't think this film gets made if the first one doesn't exist. Even if you're just looking on a piece of paper, does this story work? There's a lot of really shortcuts that are done in this one because they're assuming people understand the dynamics that aren't really explained. There is no backstory that's like, nothing is really spoon fed in this. And sometimes that's good storytelling, but because there's so much of, well, you better watch the other 4 to understand what's going on with this. It becomes a little complicated and a little heavy. Like, all the Buzz Lightyears stuff is like a recurring kind of thing. Like, Buzz having malfunctions and his switches going on and off and it affecting who Buzz is. And then eventually all of these other Buzz Lightyears is an ongoing premise that these characters have had to deal with. So that's why they're able to handle it so well and so easily. They know how to deal with 50 different toys now at the same time and turn them into an army that they use. I think it absolutely benefits from it. And I don't think anybody, if this was the first entry in the series, I do not think it does well. I think it would leave people confused just because the message is timely. Money. No, of course not. And just because the message is timely doesn't mean it's a good movie.
Right. Let me ask you this: how when you went to see
this is going to age horribly as well?
Yeah. How many kids were in the theater when you went to see it?
It was all families. It was a sold out theater. It was all families, groups of 3s and 4s. 2 kids each, from as young as like 3 to 10 or 12,
like,
and adults wearing Toy Story shirts.
Maybe 3 families, and then the rest were just adults. Like,
oh, interesting.
So we were wondering if it was just going to be a nostalgia, audience, or if
might be your neighborhood. I don't know. Do you guys have lots of schools in your neighborhood?
Yeah, we have tons of schools in our neighborhood. So, I mean, there's other movies we've gone to see where it's just packed full of kids, but yeah, there was probably only 3 or 4 families that came to see it. And a lot of them was, a lot of the people that came to see it was like older adults. So we were wondering if it was just going to draw a crowd because of nostalgia, or if new audiences were going to come in, so I couldn't really gauge whether or not, this was going to bring in new audiences or not.
What's the fan breaking point, do you think? At what point does the audience lose or gain faith in this sequel idea? Where does it jump the shark?
I feel like this was tablet bad, toys good, and I think that kind of well, seriously, I think that was a breaking point. It didn't embrace technology where, we're headed in a direction where technology is going to be a part of, it has been a part of our lives for a long time. And now AI is going to be a part of our lives for a long time. And it didn't embrace what was good about technology. It was just, all the kids got turned to zombies. The parent part was definitely a breaking point for me. Like, if I had kids, I'd be knocking on the door, of those parents saying, hey, what the hell, and taking the tablet away. I think we're making kids grow up too fast with technology, and they're not experiencing a lot of creativity. They're not experiencing a lot of, of the joys that we did when we were kids, I feel like they're being exposed to things that are just too much, too quickly, and not a lot of intervention. And I feel like it it really showed that this was more of a babysitting tool than it was anything else. And for me, that's where the breaking point was. It was just like, I mean, for somebody who's worked in technology for the last 30 years, I mean, there's a lot of good that can come out of technology. I get that there's a lot of bad that's in technology as well, but it all depends on, how you approach it, where the parents are, and what you're allowing them to do. I mean, there needs to be some sort of parental intervention in that.
This is going to be an unpopular opinion, but I think the return of Woody is the fan breaking point.
I can see
And
that, though. Yeah.
because first of all, he does nothing in this new film. You could take him out of it and nothing changes whatsoever. He provides a little bit of a comic foil to Buzz, but you could have easily just had Buzz and Jessie trying to work together and it being difficult, which would have actually strengthened their relationship curve a little bit more in this one. And the fact that they can communicate with Woody is also all sorts of bonkers. Like this walkie-talkie has the range to get to Woody wherever they are. Like when Woody
It's a ham
left,
radio.
you got to understand they were like, Bonnie goes on a summer road trip and Woody gets left behind at the end of that movie because he chooses to be with Bo Peep as they drive back days back to Bonnie's house. And yet no walkie-talkie was passed back and forth like, hey, if you ever need me, reach out. It's like, no, they say goodbye at the end of Toy Story 4. Like definitively. And Woody decides he's going to have a new life and a new purpose because he isn't needed in Bonnie's room anymore.
Right.
So he's going to go off and try to save toys that need to be saved and help. And that's why they cut in on the rescue mission that they do. But the fact that they could talk to each other and then he does absolutely nothing in this one at all, he's just wasted. And it's like, if you want to switch everything to Jessie and be about Bonnie and Jessie's relationship, sure. But don't introduce Woody as if you need to. Doesn't make sense.
Well, yeah, Jessie definitely was the main character in this one. And I did love how they gave Woody the funny horse at the end where he was just kind of a joke in the movie. I mean, he didn't, like you said, he didn't play a big part in this. He was just kind of a joke, Yeah,
he didn't, he wasn't needed. And man, the fan breaking point, the 50 Buzz Lightyears, it's a through line that does only one thing. It was designed to save the day at the end. It's like Deus Ex Machina. It's divine intervention for them to fix the problem at the end. And then like manna from above, the Buzz Lightyears descend and reintroduce playtime for kids everywhere and reminds grown-ups that they can have fun too. It's falling from the sky. It's a through line that starts off, does never become interesting, and only serves the point of saving the day because they wrote themselves in a hole they couldn't get out of.
Right.
Fan breaking point, 100%. What's the one good idea that you saw in Toy Story 5? One idea you're like, oh, this is awesome. And if you say turtle tag, I'll give you a high five.
No. This is a hard one for me because I had so many issues with the movie itself. I mean, I think the one like good thing that they did introduce was technology because it is the sign of the times, right? But
the one thing they introduced that was good was Jimmy Dean, the pig. He's great.
Oh, he was awesome. I told Cindy, I was like, I want a pig.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, but seriously, I think, if they're going to make another Toy Story, it had to be about technology. I just don't like how they did it. I really don't like how they did it. It was technology bad, toys good. And it's like, yeah, but we're not growing, with things. I mean, she went back to playing with her toys, and technology just wasn't a part of it. And I think, yeah, introducing technology was probably the one good idea that they had, but then they didn't deliver on what it could have been, where technology and playtime like coexisted, right? Like you were saying, when you got, the video games, you still went back and played with your toys. So there was this coexistence between video games and playtime. With this, it just, yeah, they what the direction that they should have gone in was that, yes, technology is being introduced, but both can coexist at the same time, and there's going to be a growth with that. And they didn't do that, and I feel like that was a missed opportunity.
It's funny because the technology theme is something that they've actually explored before, and I think it's called Toy Story That Time Forgot. It's a 30-minute short. It's on Disney Plus, and I actually urge you to watch it because it's about Mason, I believe his name is, kid down the street who gets like a PS5 for Christmas. And Bonnie comes over and leaves the toys there. Like, she brings the toys as well with her. And Mason gets all the battle swords, which are dinosaur action figures. And it's essentially like He-Man with dinosaurs, but he gets the whole set, and he has all these different play sets and everything. And the toys have got to kind of survive being trapped in this place and get Bonnie away from being sucked into gaming and realize that there's a lot of stuff to play with. And then she helps show Mason how to play, and he discovers play again and realizes how lucky he is because he has all these toys here. And so they've already done Toys vs. Tech on a smaller scale in a 30-minute short that actually worked out way more satisfying. Imagine Bonnie reintroduced toys to those three girls. Maybe at first they hate her because they get their tablets taken away for what they said to her. But then, with nothing to play with but toys, they come along and it's like, you know what? We don't want more screen time right now. We actually just want to play with toys. Seems like a little bit more of a satisfying thing.
Right.
I honestly don't know what the one good idea in this is. It's not the 50 Buzz Lightyears. It's not. Maybe it's Buttercup and Jimmy Dean. I don't know. There's some emotional heartstrings where, Jessie learns about Emily and her daughter and stuff. And I have some big questions like, why is she burying it under the tree? Did she lose her daughter and she put it there as a keepsake or something? I don't know. There's definitely some teary-eyed moments for me, but again, because I'm coming into this with a lot of Toy Story baggage, that adds up. So I don't know that there's one great idea in this. I just think there's a lot of things that could have been better.
Yeah. I think there was a lot of missed opportunities with this, and I think that's going to go for my final verdict of which direction I go.
Well, hang on. We're not there.
I'm not gonna give it yet.
Okay. Escalation. Does this film get bigger or smaller? Same scope than the original? What do you think?
Honestly, I the original Toy Story, even though I'm not a huge Toy Story fan, like the original Toy Story was good. It was still good, to watch. Like, I was engaged. I haven't seen the other Toy Stories, so I can't base it on those, but I felt like this was smaller. I feel like they tried to go bigger with technology, but they didn't hit any marks with that. I wasn't wowed by this. I'm surprised. I guess I'm not surprised that it did as well as it did, because it's a cartoon. It's got a legacy behind it that's really lifting it up.
Father's Day weekend.
So Father's Day weekend. I think, but I wasn't wowed by it. So I think this is smaller in comparison.
I think it's on the same scale in terms of like the actual geography covered. Toy Story 1 is like 2 next door houses plus Pizza Planet. This is essentially Bonnie's house, one other house with a sleepover, and Blaze's house, which is maybe the same distance as Pizza Planet. So there isn't a ton more space that they have to traverse to get around. I just think they tried to go bigger with the theme of technology, but they didn't ever pay it off. And the net result is smaller
Yes.
as a whole. So the film lands smaller, even though the aspirations were much bigger. What if this sequel never had happened? Do you think that it would be better for the franchise? Like, what's the ripple effect there? Does it get in the way of the other 4 films or the original film?
Well, I think it hurts it going forward because I think people that are nostalgic for the original Toy Stories are going to be like, what the hell? You know, but in scope of the amount of money that it made, I think, you know, I think they're probably going to be happy. I mean, you know, I feel like with something like this, you don't necessarily have to deliver on the story. You just put something out there and you can make money off of it, right? Um, you know, but you know, going forward, I mean, if they continue to go forward, they're going to have to do something that wows people, or they're going to start seeing, you know, less and less people going to the movies for this, you know? So, yeah, I don't, I think they're going to have to do something big if they do another one.
I'm really surprised that the story is where it was. I get that they got to focus on Bonnie because the kid has been the anchor, and it went from Andy to Bonnie. But this could have easily been more of a Woody adventure, since he's now essentially on a procedural mission where every day he's helping a different toy. And this day could have been about how Woody has to help, you know, the toys of this room that we haven't met yet deal with tech and this kid that we haven't met before. So we don't have any of the baggage. Becomes a standalone thing of very Western like, you know, where a man walks into a town and he's looked upon to solve the problem. And he either can or he can't, but he's up against tremendous obstacles doing that as an outsider, even though his intentions are good. And right away, there are way more obstacles, way more conflict, and you can see the resolutions would pay off a little bit more. So I'm surprised that wasn't the direction that they went. It's also hard when you have anything that has such an ensemble like Toy Story or the Muppets, where you have like 20 or 30 well-known characters that all need screen time. And how do you get them all in there?
Right.
You can't. You really can't. So you got to say kind of goodbye to a bunch of them. And you always seem to introduce 3 or 4 more. Which makes it more complicated, but it's okay not to feature everything every time. That's what makes that stuff special, leaving it alone. And that's okay. What's the verdict for you? And again, we're looking at some very specific categories. Necessary evolution, worthwhile mistake, better than expected, corporate but competent, creatively empty, betrays the original, never should have happened. Before you just jump out with your answer, I want you to consider carefully the artistic value, the franchise impact, the cultural impact, the emotional necessity of this film, and the legacy impact. So where does it land for you?
I think it's gonna land creative but empty. I think they swung for the fences on, you know, trying to create something that, you know, involved technology, involved what is happening in today's, you know, society, but it fell short. It was very empty to me. It didn't wow me, you know. So
I'm going in a similar path. I'm going to say it's a worthwhile mistake. I don't think that this film needed to be made with this story, but I think it's worthwhile in exploring the themes that every parent deals with, and is how do we get our kids off the screens that we've introduced them to, and how do we grapple with such a power that parents ourselves, you know, are addicted to. Like some of my favorite shot choices that they did in Toy Story 5 were showing the parents on their phones and on their devices. It's not just something that affects kids, it's affecting everyone.
Right.
And there's enough in there to show that parallel that, hey, this isn't just about tech destroying kids, it's consuming everybody's lives, right? Like the dad didn't even check with Bonnie if, you know, the toy should be there. I mean, I guess he did, but because she was zombied out on the bed, but he's like, okay, I got your message. I'm going to throw the toys in the attic. You okay with this? Yes. Like they didn't have a conversation about it. It was just like, do this. I sent you the message through text. Yeah. You sure what you want? Yep. It's like no communication. They're
Right.
connected, but they're not communicating. So I think it's worthwhile to bring up that theme, and hopefully a few people wake up and realize, oh, kids are growing up too fast. Oh, there is more benefits to playtime. And oh, you don't have to race to the screen. And oh, wow, maybe you should limit the amount of screen time. I don't know how long it's going to last. Again, funny that these corporations that are making these products are putting their out there and simultaneously saying, hey, connect with us online. I was waiting for like the ad for Disney Plus to come up at the end, where, you know, go online and start streaming us on your favorite device.
Yeah, I mean, and that's exactly what it's going to be. I mean, we're going to be streaming this movie on our favorite device. You know, I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword where it says, you know, again, technology bad, but stream this. You know, it's weird. It's very
now
very
streaming
odd
24/7.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's just weird.
So how does the franchise move forward? Because we can assume that this is going to break $1 billion, given at opening weekend. It's crossed 300 million worldwide. Usually it's a 3x multiplier. Where does this go going forward?
You know what I would have loved to have seen is one of the kids playing Toy Story on PlayStation 5, and then the story becoming what the characters are doing within the video game.
So that's what happens in Toy Story 2.
Oh, is it? No, it isn't.
They literally, it's Buzz Lightyear infiltrating Zurg's base, and then you realize they're playing a Super Nintendo just as Buzz fights Zurg. And that's what ends up happening when Zurg gets taken out of a package at the toy store, and Buzz and Zurg have to face off.
Oh, well, maybe I should go back and watch Toy Story 2.
Maybe you should.
I only got to a certain point.
Well, get going, Chicken Man.
No, I don't know how the
Where
franchise
does it go
moves
from
forward.
here?
I mean, you
Where
know,
does it go from here?
toys are becoming relics, and we've seen this with, you know, the documentaries that we're doing with Action Figure Adventure, and you know, it's you know, is toys going to go away at some point? You know, and I don't know how the franchise moves forward. You know, maybe it becomes more of a collector thing, you know, and I guess they did that in Toy Story 2 as well, you know, with the guy that's a collector, and you see him, you know, sewing up, you know, Woody and trying to make him pristine and collect him. But, you know, I don't know how it moves forward, you know, because toys are becoming relics.
I would love to see them. I think the idea of following Woody on his multiple adventures. I love the idea of fixing up toys that are broken and showing that they still have value once they're fixed, even if it's putting them on eBay from some sort of fake account to get them sold and into the hands of somebody that wants them. You know, I think following Woody is important, but Woody's got to be a difference maker, not an afterthought, not an add-on. He's got to be the main star of the show.
Think Woody can actually become the star of the show again if in this one he's just kind of an afterthought?
Yeah, I think all the more reason for him to become the star of the show.
Okay.
And I mean, that alone could be the premise. I'm just an afterthought. I'm just a sidekick. There's nothing left in my tank.
Yeah.
Well, I think we can explore a story that shows that you do have lots left in your tank, even if you're an old man toy that needs a brown marker.
Wow.
No, you don't see it. You just want them all.
No, I don't. I don't see it. Honestly, I don't. I mean, I think if they come out with more, it's just going to be. It's going to go into the category of corporate, you know,
but competent.
But competent. Yeah, it's.
Well, I got to tell you, buddy, they have a Toy Story Land in Florida, so I don't think they're stopping anytime soon.
No, but. You know, I mean, there was 10 years between which one?
2 and 3.
2 and 3?
2 and 3, and 9 years between 3 and 4.
How many years between 4 and 5?
7.
7 years? Okay. So, I mean, you know, it's almost between, you know, every 5 to 10 years you're seeing a Toy Story come out. You know, what happens in 5 to 10 years from now? I think we're seeing a decline with
AI will be the thing. It's not just
AI will be the thing, you know. So
I'm surprised AI wasn't more of a role in this one.
Yeah, I'm really surprised. I feel like Toy Story is a little behind on the times as far as like, oh, somebody's just getting an iPad. Like that was 10 years ago that we started that. I mean,
well, these films take a while to make.
I get they take a while to make, but yeah,
so definitively, should this have been made? Should this have happened?
Well, with as much money as they've made so far, yeah, it should have happened. But at this point,
it was bound to happen.
But it's bound to happen. But should it have happened? Probably not. I think it's. I don't see any value as in a story for this, corporate wise and financially. Yeah, it for the company it should have happened, but for the people, no, I don't think it should have happened.
Well, I think I've made my thoughts clear. I get excited by it. I'll get excited by the next one, but my hopes for delivering that ultimate punch with these characters only gets further diminished every entry, sadly. Toy Story 3 really did nail the perfect closure to this, and it could have been just fine right there. But I'm more curious about what you 3D printed, since you always 3D
oh yes, my 3D printing.
You always 3D print something for a conversation. So what do you have today?
So I was looking for something pretty fun to print on this one, because I mean there's all sorts of different toys and stuff, and I picked the little claw crane guy.
Oh, the alien.
Yeah,
the claw. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's
so
cool.
He took me a while to print, and I had to piece them together and glue them together and everything, and I think he turned out pretty great. So
I was not sure that what you were going to print. I didn't know if you were going to try to print Luxo Jr., the lamp that bounces at the beginning, or like the ball.
No, those were some of the things that I could print, but the one thing I really wanted to print was the baby head that was on the spider.
I thought you were going to print that too,
but it was so many parts, and you had to put it together. And like literally, there were screws that you had to screw in, and that was going to take forever to do. So I wasn't going to be able to do that in time. I was going to print that guy, but yeah, I think he's
pretty cool. All right.
Yeah,
and if you want that 3D printed alien, hit us up in the comments. Let us know what you think of Toy Story 5, and we'll pick some lucky winner that had some lucky comment randomly and make sure that you get that. Okay. Make sure that you keep listening and following where you are. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. Where else are we, Tater?
We're on TikTok, X, and now we have podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcast. We're on Audible and Amazon Music, and a bunch more.
We're everywhere, baby. All right, so that's it from me this episode. Rob McCallum, and of course from my co-host Nathan the Tater Slayer.
Bye, everybody.
We'll see you guys next time.
See you guys next time.
No, really, goodbye. Hang up. There's no more. It's done. There's no end credit sequence.
No, you hang up first.
No, you hang up first.